we've got about 100 trillion connections. The biggest models have about 1 trillion. So we're still almost 100 times bigger than the biggest models. And we run at 30 watts.
Is there something about scaling that is a disadvantage? So you said it's better, but just as quickly as something nourishing or positive can spread, so can something that's a virus or something deleterious can be replicated quickly. So we say that that's better because you can make copies of it quicker.
If you have multiple copies of it, they can all share their experiences very efficiently. So the reason GPT-4 can know so much is you have multiple copies running on different pieces of hardware. And by averaging the weight gradients, they could share what each copy learned. You didn't have to have one copy experience the whole internet. That could be carved up among many copies. We can't do that because we can't share efficiently.
Scott Aronson actually has a question about this. Dr. Hinton, I'd be very curious to hear you expand on your ideas of building AIs that run on unclonable analog hardware so that they can't copy themselves all over the internet.
Well, that's what we're like. If I want to get knowledge from my head to your head, I produce a string of words and you change the connection strengths in your head so that you might have said the same string of words. And that's a very inefficient way of sharing knowledge. A sentence only has about 100 bits. So we can only share about 100 bits per sentence, whereas these big models can share trillions of bits. So the problem with this kind of analog hardware is it can't share. But an advantage, I guess, if you're worried about safety, is it can't copy itself easily.
You've expressed concerns about an AI takeover or AI dominating humanity. What exactly does that look like?
We don't know exactly what it looks like, but to have AI agents, you have to give them the ability to create sub-goals. And one path that's slightly scary is they will quickly realize that a good sub-goal is to get more control. Because if you get more control, you can achieve your other goals. So even if they're just trying to do what we ask them to do, they'll realize getting more control is the best way to do that. And once they realize getting more control is good, and once they're smarter than us, will be more or less irrelevant. Even if they're benevolent, will become somewhat irrelevant. Will be like the sort of very dumb CEO of a big company that's actually run by other people.
I want to quote you. You said that it's tempting to think, because many people will say, can't we just turn off these machines? Like currently we can. Said it's tempting to think that we can just turn it off. Imagine these things are a lot smarter than us. And remember that they'll read everything Machiavelli has ever wrote. They'll have read every example in the literature of human deception. They'll be real experts at doing human deceptions because they'll learn that from us, and they'll be much better than us. As soon as you can manipulate people with your words, then you can get whatever you like done. Do you think that this is already happening? That the AIs are already manipulating us?
There's some evidence now, there's recent papers that show that AIs can be deliberately deceptive. And they can do things like behave differently on training data from on test data, so that they deceive you while they're being trained. So there is now evidence they actually do that. Yeah.
And do you think there's something intentional about that, or that's just some pattern that they pick up?
I think it's intentional, but there's still some debate about that. And of course, intentional could just be some pattern you pick up.
So is it your contention that there's a subjective experience associated with these AIs?
Okay, so most people, almost everybody in fact, thinks one reason we're fairly safe is we have something that they don't have and will never have. Most people in our culture still believe that. We have consciousness or sentience or subjective experience. Now, many people are very confident they don't have sentience, but if you ask them, what do you mean by sentience? They say, I don't know, but they don't have it. That seems a rather inconsistent position, to be confident they don't have it without knowing what it is.